Hello, I'm Sue. I worked at Welsh Women's Aid for 17 years between 1985 and 2002. Well, I didn't have any connection at all with any women's organisations until somebody I knew vaguely from school said she was starting up a women's kind of discussion group. Then I started going to meetings in Cardiff, and that was a women's organisation called, I think, the Wales Women's Rights Committee. And they kind of evolved into what is now the Wales Assembly of Women, which is quite a powerful voice actually in Wales. I used to go along to different events and contribute when I could. And then through them, I heard about a women's training centre which was being set up. It was very forward-thinking women like Jane Hutt, Julie Morgan, Sue Essex, kind of, big figures in the feminist movement in Wales. And they spotted an opportunity. So they made a case for some European Social Fund money to set up a training centre specifically for women with on-site childcare. And I believe it was the first time that had ever been done in the UK. It was certainly one of the first. And I went along to a room above a pub just down the road here with my youngest daughter in the pushchair. I didn't have a clue really what I wanted to do or what was going to happen there. But I didn't really care what they were training. When I was the first intake in 1984, I studied there for a year. It was fabulous. I just can't tell you. And again, I met lots of interesting women. I made friends I still got actually. And then I heard that Welsh Women's Aid needed an admin worker. So they managed to scrape together a little bit of funding. I think the post was something like 13 and 3/4 hours a week, because that's how it was. I started work properly then in 1985 in August. Things evolved. I mean, there were all these kind of external forces at play then. We're in the middle of Thatcherism, and they really decided to get to grips with the welfare state and demolish it, basically. And that's a process that's still going on, as we know. The decision was made at Welsh Women's Aid that we really needed to focus on that as a campaigning issue, as a policy issue. It was huge. If you can't have women going into refuges if they can't claim anything, they might as well not have refuges. It needed challenging. So my job evolved into a welfare rights coordinator, but also making a case. We had no emails then. A lot of my time was spent writing to every single MP in Wales of every party. We had no devolution then as well. It's taken for granted now that you need safe spaces for women and children at risk. And it's really quite difficult to convey, especially to younger women or younger people, what a different kind of atmosphere there was then. Just mentioning the word refuge, that was seen as subversive, as, so kind of out there, an outside respectable society. We have a completely different culture now, and the battles that were fought then in the 1970s and 80s and 90s by really brave women who stood up and said, you have to do this, and just did not go away, just pursued it and put up with all kinds of rubbish. We are where we are now because of those women, and I pay tribute to them really. They are so underappreciated. We just slogged and slogged about things like paying 2 rents, for example. If someone leaves home, she can't give up her tenancy because, she literally, and why should she anyway? So she'd go into a refuge, so she'd claim housing benefit for the refuge. There's still a housing benefit claim for the house that's been left. But then you get local authorities saying, hang on a minute, why should we pay 2 lots of rent? Again, had to fight to get something included in the guidance which is issued to local authorities, how they implement the housing benefit rules. They are so very specific to women's aid and to domestic abuse issues. Nobody, no civil servant in Whitehall who's been given a brief to cut the budget, unless they're told, they would never understand that. They would never realise how crucial something like being able to claim housing benefit would be. Because it's great, yeah, we agree, we'll have refuges. There's no point in just having a building. You have to enable people to live there and to move on from there safely. And I'm really proud of the work that me and my colleagues at Welsh Women's Aid did on that. I got involved with the local Women's Aid group here in Barry, and they were going through a period of change. They're now called Atal Fro. There was a domestic abuse forum, a multi-agency forum, and I became the chair of that forum. Out of the blue, we were phoned by Mo Mowlam, who was a very high-profile politician in Blair's government, and she phoned us up. She'd been given the equalities brief, And she was doing her homework. She was doing exactly the right thing. And she said, I've heard about you. I want to speak to you. I want to know what you've got to say and what we can do. And so Jill and I went up to London and we met her in her office, and Harriet Harman was another one. Politicians who kind of get it, they will be proactive. You start off as a grassroots campaigning volunteer-led group, and then once you win your battles, you become part of the establishment. And then you have to start thinking about, how do we behave? Where do we compromise? Where do we not compromise? Where's the boundary? Who are we? Well, there's so much shared history, and you can't dismiss that. I think it's really important. It makes you who you are.